What's up, everyone? This is once again Dhati Lewis.
Stephen Lee, what up?
Jorge Mendoza.
Hey, it is early in the morning. This is how you show commitment.
No, it's not that early. Isn't it?
I mean,
it's noon, isn't it?
No, man. It's 6
You
in the
want
morning.
people to know what time it is?
Yeah, I want people to know that we're committed to this. This is not just gonna be a fly by night thing. We're committed to this thing.
But sometimes it's gonna be a nighttime thing, like it's dark right now.
Yeah,
it is. It is true. Well, hopefully y'all can't tell. We
But-
got good lighting.
yeah, we have good lighting because we have a good director,
Ricky
K,
K.
podcaster.
Ricky.
Yeah, so I had doubts about Steve showing up this early though.
I don't know why.
Yeah, it was touch and go for a minute.
No, I'm here.
You are here.
Yeah.
You are here.
And like alert and everything.
Alert, ready to go.
This is life,
Let's go.
bro. We need to be in the gym after that game last night. Let's go.
Yeah, that was a good game.
Your daughters play well. So what I'm talking about, we went to see Dhati's daughters play last night, play ball. It was a good game, man. They came back. It started kind of shaky, kind of shaky. 6-1. I think it was like 6-1 in the beginning, but the Lewis sisters poured it on.
Yeah, I mean, and if you guys know, I'm not sick. My voice is like this because I coach basketball, girls basketball, and that's like at the beginning of every year, this is how my voice sounds. Like doing basketball season.
Shout out to Jade. I like Jade likes to shoot.
Oh yeah, she don't
like. There's no shot clock. I love it. Like, because at one point you were like, "Hey, don't shoot." I was like, "Yeah, shoot it." In the game, like you were like, "Don't shoot." I was like, "Why not?" That's what I like about her. Like she's about getting buckets.
Yeah.
So that's what I appreciate about her.
Clock's running out. We up by 10.
I'm like, shoot it, end it. She shot one, and I held up the 3 sign like as it was going on when she hit the 3. So, but they got some. They got all that. I think they got the game from Angie. I don't know if I'm gonna give you all the credit.
Hey,
just the smarts. And I like that. So this was Trade and Trinity. I like the Trinity is she's kind of point guard. So I liked it. I like seeing her, kind of control the tempo flow, and so she's some good stuff. Yeah. So I sent him a scouting report afterwards.
You did. It was very good. It was a good
here's some things
good analysis.
Well, because you're gonna need some scholarships because of these kids you have, bro.
Yeah.
So
we got multiple. So I told him, I was like, "Daddy, mommy can't help you.
Yeah.
So get them grades.
Yeah.
Get the gym. Those are the options. Hey, we think about doing lacrosse. The new thing is lacrosse. People are saying if you're a girl and you play lacrosse, you can get an instant scholarship. If you got any skills.
I think Trinity has 3 years. I mean, she's in. I think she's got a shot, man.
Yeah. Well, so we're just stair stacking them. So I got it. Trinity's in 8th grade, Jade 7th.
Yeah.
And then I got Bree coming up.
Yeah.
In the 5th grade.
It's a good squad, man.
God grades in gym right now.
God grades in gym.
Was it the new?
Is it a new podcast title?
No. I think I like the podcast title. I'm thinking like for this series at least. I mean, the Beards, theology, and reconciliation.
Reconciliation.
I mean, even though I'm still offended that I'm the only one that can't grow a beard.
You got it, dog.
I cannot grow a beard. Like,
bad,
does this count? Like,
so you don't have to shave. Like,
this is
shave
it.
this
I don't have to do it.
Jorge grew that this morning.
Yeah. So this is So anyway, let's.
What up? All right, here we go. Ready to roll.
Again, what we're been talking about is being an advocate versus an agitator. We've been looking at the book of Philemon to kind of help frame our time and to undergird us, looking at different R's. And today we're looking at the R of reinforcing dignity of all with compassion. Mm-hmm. We have the text of scripture that we're going to read is verses 17 through 22. We probably won't read it all, but 17 to 22, here it is. It says, this is Paul speaking to Philemon. He says, "So if you consider me a partner, welcome him," referring to Onesimus, "as you would me. And if he has wronged you in any way or owes you anything, charge that to my account. I, Paul, write this with my own hand. I will repay it. And not to mention to you that you owe me even your very own self." So I think that is a very interesting text to start with. And, just Paul goes in and talks about, he's confident that he would receive them. He says in verse 21, "Since I am confident that of your obedience, I am writing to you knowing that you will do even more than I say. Meanwhile, also prepare a guest room for me, since I hope that your prayers and I will be restored to you." One of the things that I was thinking about, like specifically this section of reinforcing dignity of all with compassion, a lot of times, especially, we talk about the Imago Dei, right? And restoring the Imago Dei in people. And I think a lot of times this issue is the issue of Imago Dei. I mean, that's really what we're talking about with the whole Black Lives Matter and all lives matter. And I mean, there's really people saying that people are inherently have been created in the image of God. And if we're created in the image of God, then we should treat one another with dignity, right? Yeah. And I think that that's an important concept with that, and I think because when we don't treat people with dignity, then we were able to, treat people as if they're not human.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, how important do you guys feel like dignity and just kind of the restoring dignity is as it relates to the divide in our country?
Yeah. You got it.
I think it's for the believer, it's the bedrock, fundamental way that we are to treat one another based on the other person that we're interacting with, created in the image of God. I mean, if we don't have that, we really don't have a basis by which to move on. And it's interesting that even the concept of human and civil rights, you can't really have that without the concept of the Imago Dei and the inherent dignity of human beings. Because if you strip that away, there's really nothing else to base it on. So I think it's absolutely essential.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that I often think, I can't remember where I heard it, but it was essentially a brother kind of talking about when, again, when you kind of think about the implications of Genesis 3, hostility between humanity. And often you look at some of these movements, and really I think that at the end of the day, I think what all of these movements, whether it's the Black Lives Matter movement, whether it's in terms of like social justice, I think what people are looking for, I think is dignity and respect. And I think one of the challenges I think that we see in our culture is that things have been, I think, so skewed, so disproportionate for such a long period of time that a request for dignity and justice feels it feels burdensome, just 'cause things have just been so skewed up. And I'm like, and people aren't asking to be viewed as better than. It's just, hey, how, can we treat other people fairly, not based on race, not based on, socioeconomic status. And I think remember the quote again, kind of saying that it was so bad in terms of when we look at just kind of across the history in terms of the way some people groups are treated, that that it can in some sense it's shocking that really people are just asking for fairness and equality, but to some people that just, it feels like you're asking for too much. And so I think it's just a reminder to us in these conversations of equality, fairness is that should be normal,
right?
And that I think that's the hope at the end of the day. It's not saying treat me with more respect, equality than anybody else deserves.
Yeah, when I love what Paul says in the text, he says, if you consider me a partner, welcome him as you would me.
Yeah.
Earlier he says, receive him as a brother.
Yeah.
And now you see him, receive him as you would receive me.
Yeah.
The same treatment that you would give me if I were to come to your home.
That's it.
You should treat him in that way. And that's really what we're talking about is dignity. And I
Yeah.
think what's significant about that is the fact that when, a lot of times that these issues are not going to be resolved primarily kind of in the open forums.
Yeah.
I think that is definitely a platform, but it also got to be, these issues have to be resolved in kind of the homogeneous units, like when you feel comfortable, when you feel safe, when it's all white people or when it's all black people or when it's all, kind of people you feel safe and that just kind of let loose. Because if we don't, get down at the core and treat people with dignity in those circles, then basically when it comes down and the pressure cooker comes, what's really in there is going to really come out. And so it has to be at the core of what.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to dignity, we have to be particularly aware about the people who don't feel like they are receiving dignity. Because there are some who overget it right? Like the rich and the famous and the power, everybody's always catering to them and, you know, giving them special favors because maybe they're going to get something out of it. But with the poor and the marginalized, they're just kind of invisible.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that what Paul is asking for here in relationship between Onesimus and Philemon is kind of the same thing that James is talking about in James chapter 1 when it talks about let the lowly brother exalt or rejoice in his exaltation, or let the rich basically boast in his humiliation. Like the gospel is the great equalizer. I remember reading a quote on this one time that really helped me to kind of get it, where the author was talking about in this passage the and I'm kind of paraphrasing in my own words the idea that he was talking about, but he's talking about how the poor in this passage are called to rejoice, or called to lead the church in rejoicing of how God has lifted them up, right? And and the rich are called to reject hope in this, the poor are called to rejoice in the future that's coming, and the poor are called to lead, or the rich are called to lead the church in the rejection of the present hope and riches.
That's good.
And so the gospel is a great equalizer, and in the church and that James is addressing, you have this tension between the rich and the poor coming together, and how the gospel equalizes them. And unfortunately, we don't see that dynamic in most of our churches today. We're divvied up, not only a lot of times ethnically, but we're divvied up a lot of times socioeconomically. And you don't have these kind of relationships taking place even in a lot of churches.
Yeah. Well, I think, like you said, I think what you also see Paul, I think, doing in these particular verses is using his privilege for good. I mean, I think just
leveraging.
He's leveraging it, and I think we might often think, I mean, there are people that God has blessed, I think, financially influenced, but I think in this particular passage, you see how he's used that for the benefit of those who he's in relationship with. And I think that's just an important thing to remember. And I think you see that in Paul. You also, if you go back to Philippians 2, I mean, I think you see that in Christ's example of him, of humility, service, of him leaving kind of heaven where he is enthroned. He's, he's God and coming in the form of a bondservant. And so I think there's, again, just more kind of practical principles of what it looks like to embody this thing of advocacy. In our day and age.
And that's really good, because remembering the Galatians letter, Paul talks about with his sickness or his ailment, and he says, you received me as an angel, you received me as Jesus Christ himself. Right? And again, he's the Apostle Paul, right? So they probably, he's a great, now he's asking for a nobody to be received with the same kind of treatment. Right? So he's kind of clothing Onesimus with his own reputation, with his own whatever swag, whatever he has. Is man, like, let me put it on you, and so that you can be welcomed like I'm welcomed.
Yeah, and in a lot of sense, we see this idea of Paul being a type of Christ, which we talk about types of Christ all the time in the Old Testament, but very rarely do we see that kind of in the New Testament. But that's what we see is Paul being a tangible expression of the gospel on behalf of Onesimus in that role. And so I think that is definitely unique. For those of you kind of listening through the podcast and don't have the visual, I mean, hopefully Ricky can put this up. Is this kind of this visual that we use called the 3 Circles life map here at our church, and it's something that has been created through the North American Mission Board, and it really talks about this idea of God's design, and that's really we talk about the Imago Dei, right? That we start with the Imago Dei. Genesis starts with we were created in God's image, but because of sin, instead of living out that, we live brokenness, and that brokenness goes out into multiple different areas, and it's kind of this circle that goes out, leads us to the first circle, and it goes out different ways. But when we're able to embrace our mutual brokenness, when we recognize that we're broken because of our sin, it's at that point that God calls us to repent and believe. We call out, because when we recognize that we're broken, we recognize that we're not able to do things, we're able to then say, I need help, and that help is going to only come from outside of me. And then that's when we cry out, and we put our trust in something other than ourselves, and that's when Christ shows up. And that's where the gospel is, the person and work of Christ, and we put our confidence in that. And it's in that last little semicircle that goes back. It's talking about restoring, getting us back to God's design, the Imago Dei. And I think that part is what we're supposed to be doing. No, in that verse in Romans chapter 10 and 12 and 9, where it talks about outdo one another in showing honor or giving preference. Basically, that word honor is just the idea of giving back dignity to people. And that's really what we're talking about, is how do we restore the dignity in all of us? Because when you don't feel like you're getting dignity, what you end up doing is you fight for that dignity. To steal a famous phrase from Boys in the Hood, we're talking about penitentiaries full of people, I'm paraphrasing, who ain't no punk. Everybody trying to give respect. Everybody trying to, it's just like, but that's the issue, is that we're going to get it by all means necessary, no matter what. We're going to respect me. Because we were created in that way, and I think that that's really important. So if we're going to not just talk gospel, but we're going to really live out and manifest the gospel, it's really about reinforcing dignity with compassion. That's good. To all people. It's about us, whether how frustrated or how mad, recognizing you're still made in the image of God. They're still made in the image of God, and we have to restore dignity. That's good. For that.
Well, man, I think, just a reminder of what you said, and I'd love to maybe hear what you guys think, just kind of some practical ways to live that out. I know a lot of times what I kind of challenge our congregation to do, I mean, we kind of minister in an urban, density, diverse environment, and I think one of the things that I've often said to people in our church is, man, when you encounter the homeless person that comes up to your car, like, do you look in their eyes? Like, even if you tell them no, I think what they deserve at that particular point is dignity, respect. And so, like, what do you guys think are just some practical ways? Like, how does this look day to day, like in terms of relationships, in terms of people? And that's one kind of small way that I seek to, I think, treat people that perhaps society might look at in a particular way, to say, even if I tell you no, or if I can't, like, I still want to treat you with the same respect that I would treat you if you had on a $400 or $500 suit. Right.
Yeah. I think that's exactly the right sentiment we ought to have for people. And I think just being intentional, whether it's the homeless person, whether it's the janitor, whether it's the unpopular kid at your school, or whoever it might be, to reach out to them with that sense of respect and honoring them just as human beings, and really caring about them. And so I just think just being on the lookout for that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I would just echo that. Again, it just kind of goes back to me. I'm when you said, I immediately go back to the golden rule, and we talked about that in earlier podcasts, is treat others as you would want to be treated. Period. The Bible is full of this, the very essence of saying, love others as much as you love yourself. So, and we all know we love me some me. I love us some us. You know what I'm saying? And so basically just with every single human being who's created in the image of God, treat them in that same way that you want to be treated. You would want to be treated. And so I think that, that's a tangible, practical kind of litmus test that you can always put yourself in.
So one of the things that I'm engaged in right now is I live by a bridge, and there's homeless people that live under the bridge. So I've been building a relationship with a guy named Jason, and whether it's giving him bus fare to get to the program that he's trying to get into, or heating up a plate of what we had for dinner and taking it out there to him. But I always try to engage him in that way, man, like a human being, and try to instill hope in his life, and hopefully that's making an impact on him. So.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's good encouragement.
Yeah, well, brothers, I appreciate you. Thank you for another good episode.
It's a good one.
All right. So what? Beard's Theology and Reconciliation
versus that podcast. We need to have people vote.
We can
send your suggestions.
That's true. Well, actually, here's the thing.
We don't know where.
At this point, it'll be decided because whatever the bumper says, we'll know who won. So it's that podcast versus the other
Beard's Theology and Reconciliation.
Yeah, the other thing.
All right.
Yeah.
Peace.